school, appointments, or just to have some fun. And remember, children, students, and honored riders ride for free with a pass. Learn how at rideltd.org.
Get a 30% federal tax credit up to $2,000 with any qualifying EnerZone wood-burning unit.
With covered days, head back to the fire. You buy it. That's the beauty of in-store shopping. And at Rice's Home Furniture and Mattress, you'll find famous stand-in sofas made locally in Oregon, both
traffic as people are flying, they'll call in and I have to say, remind very often that the runway is closed, taxiways are closed. So
The giant X's in the red plane in the middle of it wasn't enough.
usually a giant plane would be enough, but the X is really, they're very bright. They're very bright. You have a question?
Yeah, I had talked to Sean after he informed me about this, and I was just curious, like, it seems we're obviously having lots of crashes at the airport, and what sort of, with other similar airports, what sort of rate of accidents are seen? And it sounds like you're gonna be following up on that.
I am. It is a little bit higher, but after the following day, I went out and spoke with some of our commercial tenants and John and Betsy at Transwestern and debriefed. And part of it is we're a large training airport. I mean, we're touch and goes, we're a practice airport, which is typical for GAs, general aviation. And we just have seen quite the uptick of new pilots from, Pearson, from Hillsborough, just all around. They come and they use our airport because it's our runway, because it's decent. Fuel is priced well. So, those are all good things. So it's really just bad luck for our pilots that are coming in because, most of these are user error. None of these have been because of our runway.
Right.
So, or our facilities at all. So
Would you say most are due to just training accidents? They're not doing things that are super dangerous?
no, all four of them have been just like wind, which we have no control over. That's you take that risk knowing how windy it is to get up there. And so, yeah, it's just an unfortunate string.
Have any of the accidents caused any damage to the runway?
Just some scratches, but nothing more than like the cracks that are currently in there from, years and years of use. So when I go out there and I assess the site, the first time after the first accident in March, I think we had James Kirby from Century West come out and kind of explain it's not any worse than the crack that's 2 feet from it, so they're just surface superficial cracks or maybe some little bit of gouges. But again, the cracks that are already there are much more significant than any scratch that's getting on the runway.
So to your knowledge, do most pilots carry liability insurance that if they did damage something at the airport, they would be able to pay for it?
Yes,
They do.
yes, they have very extensive insurance policies.
Is that a required state requirement, like
It's a-
auto insurance?
FAA.
Yeah.
And it's very stringent, like it's hard to get and there's physicals that are required.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
So we do have recourse if there is.
is any damage to our property? Yes, we could.
Good.
Questions?
Okay, any other
Thank you.
questions?
And then just a few more things about the airport. Mr. Salisbury and Mr. Clark executed the West Side Pavement Maintenance Phase 2 grant that went to the FAA. So that project will be moving along. We will, should be meeting with the contractor. Once we hear back from the FAA and get our letter that the grant is good to go, we'll be meeting with the contractor to start getting that project going. I'm hopeful that we can have that project done in September, maybe late September, sometime in there. It's a 22-day project with a closure, depending on the contractor, maybe 3 to 4 days, but not 24 hours and not consecutive 4 days. It would be pieces of certain days with the sum of 4 total. And then I have a scope of work that I will be sending to you. Any questions?
Yep. Thank you, Lacey. Thank you. Okay, Lignetics neighbors update.
New thing. Everybody else comes up here to present. Get to do the same. Good morning.
Good morning.
As of today, Lignetics has received 3 fines from the city of Columbia City to the tune of $100 a piece, I believe, if they paid, which is 20% of the total fine, which they paid right away. Talking to Kim, who's with us here today, it sounds as though those are complaint driven. So the fact that there haven't been more is either residents have not called in, but it doesn't seem as though anything has really changed yet with the winds shifting. So as of what we understood was they were not running on the weekends, which is still the case. Can you verify that, Deanna? No weekend activity?
Either of us, I think, can verify, yes, Saturday and Sunday are a blessing.
Okay, great. There is a community meeting August 27th with at the community hall here. And I fully expect the folks from Lignetics will be there in Moss with their VPs and Mr. Sale and of course, Steve Nelson here local. Steve did call and reach out about some plans that they want to talk to us about. So I hope we can get some, maybe this afternoon, I'll be meeting with him if the schedule allows to find out what exactly where things are at schedule wise and any other plans that they have. So.
What was the time on that meeting?
Today's meeting?
No, the.
7.
6 o'clock, okay.
Today's meeting is still pending, so if we can't meet today, we'll try to meet tomorrow.
Is that the 27th?
Yeah.
I would just say that, and we've offered this before, but it's in the city's interest, it's in the port's interest, and it's what we do to have an economic development thing there. We're responsible and it's clean, but if there's some way that there's some capital issue for them that's holding up something. I'd like to see if we can work out some kind of diversion or some way to help them fund it. If funding is the only issue to bringing some of it in. I know some of it's time delays on. Some of it seem to be their capital budgeting.
Yeah, I
Need equipment, and I feel plenty, and we can lock the door, so. We've done that once before to rescue them, and I would be amenable if there was a smart way for us to help them to do
as it deals with the dust issue, is that?
it. Correct, yeah.
Gotcha.
And the traffic issue.
Okay.
I know it's been a little while here since we discussed it, but weren't they just short of I know it was expensive, but short of a transformer for the new hammer mill? And I know at one point in time we lightly discussed if we'd had any appetite to partially fund that or have some type of.
I will say that those discussions did happen before budget. So that's the thing to keep in mind is, while we may be able to provide some assistance, maybe like to Robert's point, maybe it is a rent relief potentially, or, whatever you.
Or something, so.
We'll get a plan together and let you guys tell us how to do it. But yeah, I got the message and bring that up when we talk with Steve. That's all.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to new business, resolution 2024-17, approving cornice construction for Marina. Here.
Oh, again. So in 2023, the port was awarded a grant from OSMB for the 407,912 with a required 50% port match for the same amount for the construction of the area of the upland improvements at the marina. The engineering and final design by KPF engineers estimated construction cost at $739,456. Following our rules for competitive sealed bidding, we received 7 bids from an ITB that we solicited. After reviewing all the bids, port staff recommend the selection of Cornice Construction as the lowest cost, responsive and responsible bidder. And also recommend approval of a contract to the amount of $514,150 with a 10% contingency for any additional costs. Cornice Construction, you should know, is a local-based business in Scappoose with approximately 20 employees in Columbia County, residing in Columbia County. We're also pleased to note that with this contract, with the amount of this contract, the project comes in under budget by $173,000 and change. So
Excellent.
very good. So, of course, we recommend adoption of Resolution 2417, authorizing the executive director to execute a contract with Cornice Construction for the upland phase 1 of the Marina Improvements Project in the amount of $514,150,000 with 10% contingency for any additional costs for a not to exceed total $565,565.
Excellent. Any questions for Miriam?
Move to adopt resolution 2024-17.
A second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? If none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, resolution 2024-18, approving timber harvest and purchase agreements. Elliot.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
If adopted, Resolution 2024-18 would authorize the Executive Director to execute 3 agreements necessary to harvest the trees on the port's property in the Clackamas Drainage District. These agreements are an agreement with Pelham Cutters, Inc. to harvest and chip the trees and then deliver them to the port's designated mill. And then there are 2 other agreements that are purchase agreements. One is with Georgia Pacific for chips delivered to their plant in Wana. Second purchase agreement is with Nippon Dynawave covering chips delivered to their plant in Longview. So this slide shows outlined in green the land owned by the port in the Clackamas Drainage District. This land sits just north of the center of Clackamas. It's Stimson, kind of an old picture there, but Stimson is just below it to the right. And it consists of 194 acres that the port bought in 2020. Most of this property was last harvested during 2010, and the trees are now due for harvest. Due to harvester availability, our intention this year is to focus on 2 areas shown here in yellow and red. These areas have many fallen and leaning trees, and the intention would be to do the balance of the property next year. Besides the trees being due for harvest because of their age, we want to harvest since fallen trees will lose mass over time. And we also have a number of trees that have fallen but are leaning against neighboring trees. And eventually, these will cause the neighboring trees to fall as well. In addition to losing mass over time, fallen trees are more difficult to harvest than standing trees, which is why we've prioritized these 2 areas. The harvester hasn't walked the site yet, so this may change, but currently we expect them to begin the harvest with the yellow 30-acre parcel on the lower left. And if time allows, we also hope to harvest the red 13-acre parcel on the lower right. Wood chip prices are based on bone-dried tons. Normally, a field of standing trees would yield a little over 50 bone-dried tons per acre. However, due to the number of fallen and leaning trees in these two particular areas, Rick Stonex is estimating that our yield will be closer to 40 bone-dried tons per acre. So the yield after deducting our costs to harvest will be about 30,000 in the yellow area. And the red area of 13 acres should yield about 13,000. So if we're able to do both areas this year, we would net between $40,000 and $45,000. So therefore, to harvest these two areas before the coming winter, board staff recommends that a resolution 2024-18 be adopted. Do you have any questions?
I'm just saying, I hope they can get to the red area because it's a mess.
Yeah, and we already prepared the entryway into that last year, so hopefully they can. The yellow area actually is slightly higher percentage, but it's just harder to see. But I agree with you.
Oh, you mean it's down trees?
Yeah,
Yeah, and I don't get out that way as much, but
yeah, it's harder to see. It's quite a walk.
Let's come in there with a bunch or just.
When will you know
When he gets out there,
that they can do both?
you know, I think we won't know till they're doing it and they see how well the production goes.
I like that Georgia Pacific's buying those chips because they planted those trees 50 years ago.
Is there a plan to treat the area after the logging, you know, to keep, I assume we don't want them to regrow.
Yes, we currently have a license with Columbia River Ranch, but we've had interest in that land. Mr. Coleman as well.
So when you say treat, you mean use
With an
pesticides?
herbicide, yeah, to,
Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking more of like cattle control or having Mr. Coleman, excuse me, run tractors over to demolish the roots.
yeah, when they're young, that sort of works. If they go a little longer, that's not as good, but
They grow back really
not as easy. Put it that way, yeah.
You can see how quickly they can grow back in the areas in the mitigation site where they harvested them last year and the trees are already back pretty high. That's not our property, I should add.
So is this property next to any farms?
Yeah, there's two private holdings. You see the little indent on the property there? There's two property owners there.
Oh, yeah, you can see it. Okay.
in the boat club and stuff.
And boat club is to the north and there's some private holdings just north of our property is there as well.
Will this be disruptive to them?
In the sense that there'll be equipment moving that, knocking down the trees.
Right.
They're next to the Stimson Mill, so they won't even.
They've heard trees getting cut up. Yeah, they've heard trees cut up.
The yellow will be more disruptive of the two to them because the path the trucks will take.
That job, I would imagine they'll finish that pretty quickly. It's not a big area.
Stimson's routes are shipping, so you know, all right, to the back of that red dot, so all the trucks and chip trucks going that way.
Oh. They must love that.
Any further questions for Elliot?
I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution 2024-18.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carries unanimously. Okay, thank you, Elliot. Resolution 2024-19, approving scope of work for airport runway rehabilitation.
Right. Hello again. In 2024, Airport Engineer of Record Century West submitted a FAA grant on behalf of the port for phase 2 of the runway rehabilitation project. Items required for the phase 2 are project management design, final design, and grant closeout. This grant contract will take us to right up until March, when we will go for bid for 2025 runway rehabilitation. Staff is recommending the adoption of Resolution 2024-19, authorizing the executive director to execute the contract for the runway rehabilitation project with Airport Engineer Century West in the amount of $274,527.60. Any questions?
We paid 2,700 of that
Right.
number.
Yeah, I saw, that was very impressive.
That's amazing. Yeah. Move to adopt resolution 2024-19.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to adopt resolution 2024-19. All those in favor?
I,
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, resolution 2024-20, reappointing 3 members to the Marina Advisory Committee.
Good morning, commissioners.
good
Good
morning.
morning.
All right, as you're aware, the Scappoose Bay Marine Park Advisory Committee has the authority to recommend actions to the Port Commission, but may not obligate the port in any way. All the responsibilities of the advisory committee are assigned at the discretion of the executive director or by the Port Commission. 3 of the advisory committee member terms expired on June 30th, 2024. Staff contacted these members and all 3 members want to continue. The advisory committee then unanimously voted in favor of Howard Blumenthal, Mark Gunderson, and Jennifer Massey being appointed for an additional term. Staff is recommending adoption of resolution 2024-20, reappointing Howard Blumenthal, Mark Gunderson, and Jennifer Massey to the Scappoose Bay Marine Park Advisory Committee for a 3-year term from July 2024 through June 2027.
How many members altogether?
We currently have 5. A resolution allows us 7, and we have 1 application that we received recently that will go to the committee soon. And then there's a second possible interest.
Are we obligated to publicly advertise these positions or not? So,
We did put it on Facebook and our website is correct? Yes. Yeah. We did that about the time of our last, or just after our last meeting. We had a lot of stuff happening at the time, but Gina posted that for us so that we could get some interest. Yeah.
So they're not required to have an interest as far as having a boat in the marina.
There is a recommendation that they are residents of Columbia County, and there's definitely an element in the application too explaining why they're interested. Currently, our group I think is a really well-rounded group of avid fishermen who use the space and people who use the space. We have kind of a representative of kind of the watershed council viewpoint as well as kind of kayaking. We have a couple of a few tenants that are part of it, both boathouse, floating home, and slip.
As the commission representative on the Scappoose Bay Marine Park Advisory Committee, that is a mouthful. All 3 have been valuable over their last terms and provide great insight. Everybody works well together. So my 2 cents in my role is that we should move forward with reappointing them.
Move approval of resolution 2024-20. Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Elizabeth.
So much.
Moving right along here. Executive Director's Report.
Thank you, commissioners. I sent out the report and the manager's report to you on Monday. Hopefully you had a chance to review that or have it in front of you there. One thing I didn't have on here that will be on there when I send it out electronically this week is the Columbia City Community Meeting on August 27th. Last week I went down to Salem for the Connect Oregon Final Review Committee to listen to that process, and former Senator Johnson led the group as a facilitator, which was a very helpful for me to understand that process because I'm sure we'll be back again for Connect Oregon. And I've spoken to some of you that my plan this year this coming fiscal year anyways, to spend more time down in Salem to get to know that process and the people involved. Learn who our representatives are and how they can may or may not help us. But yeah, that's been some advice given to me, and as we try to figure out where I settle in with duties as an executive director, definitely the political outreach is a big one for us. So hopefully that'll help us with future grant opportunities and just when they're thinking about us for funding, not only for grants, but as they're trying to round out their programming and at the agency level. So some really good advice there from former Senator Johnson on time in Salem and who to bother and get to know. So that's been really, really good. Appreciate her inputs. Any questions on my schedule here? I think one of the things I wanted to make sure you're aware of is many of you know Rob Rich from Shaver Transportation. And he's retiring. And if you may know that they have 5 people replacing him, which is kind of a funny joke, which he expands upon. It's not like I'm doing the work of 5 people, but when you start at a company, for 30 years, you take on all these different, anyway, he's leaving and it's gonna be a big hole for the industry because it's just a wealth of knowledge.
NWA too.
Yeah,
Huge.
I'd like to attend that. I'm gonna attend it anyway, but if you're.
First, yeah, August, I'll send you the details on that.
Yes, yes.
Currently, we don't have any business for the 828. If we think about a work session topic, we could explore that. We will be without our lawyer for the 828 meeting, but if we have a work session topic that's worthwhile, we can set that up.
I'll be back by then.
Okay. Gotcha.
On until then.
That's right. Thank you. Let's see. Oh, I wanted to really highlight the operations team as they came up with a really creative solution to the shop move. As you know, we've been contemplating moving out of Multnomah shop because of Orpet's pending expansion coming up next year. We were looking at the Winter Circle site where we settled on. We were going to put an office trailer there, and we thought we were going to be able to hook up to city sewer and found us the water line out there, and it just ended up being one thing after another. The team kind of put their heads together and said, what about building A? We're only leasing out part of building A at Industrial Park to Stella Jones McFarland. That seemed like a good option. So there's restrooms there, a break area, place for them to set up their desks. We will do away with the old office trailer that's currently outside of our shop at Multnomah. And they'll continue with the plan of using Winter Circle shops as our maintenance shop area. So good compromise, good creative, saved us over $40,000 over a couple of years on a rental, which sounds like the city or county we're not gonna recognize as a temporary structure, which was causing all these other things that we had to look at. So creatively and save some money by utilizing that building A, which Amy's had a heck of a time trying to lease out. I know she's had a couple of tire kickers for it and for whatever reason just doesn't fit, but it fits us right. So thanks to the ops team, Miriam and her folks for coming up with that solution. They're always looking for ways to save us money. So appreciate it.
Good job.
The summer community events season has come to a close. Thank you all for your participation, specifically Commissioner Ward. She was a fixture at a lot of our booths, and that was nice to be able to visit with her. And it's a really good chance to talk to folks. And it's amazing some of the questions that we get, the curiosities and the confusion about, who we are. And it's always nice to set people straight. So look forward to doing those again in the future, obviously. You saw the manager reports. I will see if you have any questions on the reports that were attached.
I have no questions. I thought they were great reports.
Yeah,
I'm really, really happy to be getting this information. Super helpful.
Very helpful.
Thank you. I wanted to point out, I talked with Commissioner Fawcett on Monday with the pre-agenda meeting that we have. His thought was a monthly, and I just wanted to find out what your guys' thoughts were, if you needed more frequency on the report, or is monthly okay, but like ideally before the commission meeting. Try to get it out the Friday before the commission meeting. And
Well, we've never had it before, so now that we have it, it's like, oh, I want this all the time.
okay,
But yeah,
outstanding.
I think monthly would be.
Further, I would just like to say to the managers, if you don't have much in there, I don't assume you're not working.
Right.
If you're working on the same thing and you say, look, I've only got fine. I mean, it shows
Yeah.
what's going on, so I don't want the report to take up 2 of their days trying to think of things to put on there.
Right.
But there's a lot going on, put a lot.
Thankfully, I think we all agreed bullets was fine. So that's, okay. We'll continue with that. Thank you.
One question I had, how do we still want to have the Marina update and the airport update, just standing agenda items on on each agenda? Okay, just wanted to check. I think we're getting a lot of that information, but there's usually something to talk about.
Yeah, or not, but to have it on there, I think is appropriate.
When you discussed this idea with me, and I had those standing items, I was ready to have this replace that. So at some point, when these, I know we got a lot of dredging going on in the airport grants, but when they settle down, I think we could just move to.
Okay.
I'd like just a little bit of understanding about your meeting on August 19th to discuss federal dredging disposal sites.
Yes. Okay, so this last dredging round for the Federal Navigation Channel, the Corps ran into 2 issues with Clatsop County and Columbia County with land use compatibility statements. Now, the idea is this project has been going on for 20+ years, the navigation dredging. It's all part of the original deepening where they're still maintaining it. They had to reapply for some of the local permits for upland disposal. And both counties had some questions, and it was going to be an issue. So the Port of Portland with other partner ports on the river, we're going to get together and talk about a legislative fix to where the Corps will hopefully not have to go after the local permits based on, this is part of the upcoming 20-year dredge material management plan that they're putting together. There's a draft EIS out there now. And that all of us ports up on the river are going to be required to either come up with disposal sites for the dredge material that they're removing from the riverbed, and or some in-kind contribution. So this is basically the Port of Portland getting us all together because they have a lot of the horsepower. They have the Dredge Oregon. They own that. So that we can formulate a strategy to go to Salem with a package that it helps the Corps with their mission of maintaining the federal navigation channel. And hopefully the states and local governments realize that with the EIS process that they've gone through, they've addressed a lot of the concerns that would come up in a lot of local jurisdictions. So we'll try to figure out a way that's a strategy meeting essentially. So Port of Astoria is going to come up and visit and going to meet here. So if you're available, I'll
Meet here.
Yeah,
When is that, Sean?
the 19th. Next
I would really,
next Monday. It's coming Monday.
yeah.
Okay.
Time?
Is that
9 o'clock, 9 a.m.
Is it an issue of sites being filled up and needing new sites or?
That does become an issue. It can. It's not always the issue because you can sell it. Some sites will sell it and, give some of the royalty to the state. If we hold the material and sell it, it's not ours, but we're facilitating that sale. We'll get a percentage of it, but Department of State Lands would get the majority of it.
So the county has to approve a new site? Is that what it amounts to?
Yeah.
Okay.
That'll still be the case where, if we decide, hey, we'd like to have this as a disposal site, it gets put into that plan, that federal 20-year plan. But really what Port of Portland's looking for is some shared horsepower to try to come up with a game plan legislation. Hopefully that helps continue the dredging for the next 20 years.
So is it going to be more complicated to find a site because of changes with
Oh, it definitely could. Yeah.
issues or?
When you factor in issues like trying to go through a dike, perhaps, where you're trying to do an upland disposal site and there's a levee involved, that can be a big deal. You got landowners that you have to deal with. Some people want it. They want either beach nourishment or, give me a pile of sand so I can level out my property. But sometimes like, I need 50 cubic yards. And of course the Corps has got, they're removing 6 million yards of silt every year. Yeah, either in flow lane disposal or upland. So it doesn't all come upland, but they have to do something with it and eventually some of the sites fill up. So.
Right now, the dredge equipment on the they're using out here right now because the port's dredge down in Astoria. So it's just, there's only one dredge and there's only, it's 24/7. You got to fit you right out in front right here. Yeah.
Also, the dredge. The Port of Portland owns the Dredge Oregon and it needs replaced. They've upgraded it, I think, twice.
It's old. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a converted old riverboat
It is an antique, yes.
So that's another thing. They're gonna be, and they're,
How much is that?
Hundreds of millions of dollars probably for a dredge, yeah.
yeah, there should be help for that. This Port of Portland was stood up to dredge the Columbia River. That's how they started.
And
Yeah, they're gonna have, yeah.
you're gonna need lots of grants.
We do have an interest, as you know, we have a marine terminal and a half, I call it, with our barge dock up here in Columbia City. Barges don't draw a lot of water, but, upriver, up the system, they need dredging. The Federal Navigation Channel just does go from the mouth to Portland. As far as the main stem anyway, the Marine Highway 84 does extend up to, I believe, up to the Snake from up to Pasco.
Well, Hanford Beach, which stops pretty much at the bridge. But
One would think that with that designation, that would be an easier way to get funding. However, I feel like it's still a federal government kind of looking past each other a little bit with MARAD and with that designation, you would think that, oh, great, we have to maintain this channel. So of course, we're going to send money, or the harbor maintenance tax funds should obviously go to channel maintenance, but everybody's wrestling for that money. So.
Thank you very much. Very important.
Send you the calendar invites for Monday. Robert, you're interested as well? Is that?
I'm interested. Monday's a little tough.
send it to me as well.
Okay. We get two of you here. That could be good.
I'll coordinate, make sure you.
All right.
Any further questions of Sean or the manager? If not,
And I would have.
anything
I
else?
would have said more about that, but I was hoping to actually learn more after the meeting.
Sure.
Because I'm sure there's going to be some other things that shared interest on the river that we'll talk.
And how many ports are going to be here?
Port of Portland folks, us, and Port of Astoria.
Okay.
I keep Levitt, or that's probably somebody,
Pardon?
it's not Keith Levitt, it's probably somebody.
He's coming. Yeah. This is one of his last things, because I think the following week is his celebration. Keith Levitt leaving the Port of Portland. So he'll be here.
The airport.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner reports. We'll start down there at the end of the table, Robert.
I would just encourage you, the idea of the work at the shop move, that's fantastic. I appreciate that. And haven't had to disappoint the shop crew on their shop building over and over and over again. If we need to spend some money to make these accommodations nice and efficient, and I'm not afraid to vote for whatever you need, so.
If I could on that, I did convey that. I mean, we're saving $40,000, and when and if we get out of that space, it'll look nicer. It'll have a nice HVAC system, and we'll be able to hopefully have better luck leasing.
Are you thinking of it being permanent now?
No, well, I mean, just until we figure out our shop.
So it's still temporary.
Yeah.
Maybe invest in that building, that's a good idea. Second item was Beaver Drainage District. We had some talks about working with them to expand that board and find a way to have that board function more efficiently. Currently, with 3 members, they can't even talk to each other about any issue unless they're in a public meeting. And now they've come to understand and recognize that they have to have a public meeting, it has to be ADA accessible, it has to be available on Zoom. So the challenges of them even being able to do what they do, talk about cleaning the ditch, is about gone. And as somebody who has the biggest interest in out there, we several times found ourselves paying for both sides of litigation, directly and indirectly. So I wanted to see if that was still on the burner and where we're at. Best to.
Yeah, Elliot's, he's tasked with, and I think he's mentioned that to Warren, he said.
How about another letter from the attorney saying that was kind of a condition of some of the things we were working on, and that currently, there are challenges to the Oregon Public Meetings Law that we need to see are being addressed.
Instead of complaining, we can offer a solution.
And I think the time to do it is when nothing's on fire. When we have an issue that's complicated, then it would work. So
Would they be able to meet at the PUD?
I believe so. I have to
that
check
would
our
sure be-
policy. We have as a not-for-profit entity, I believe.
I was just gonna ask, I mean, they don't need to meet just at Quincy Grange.
Right, because there's no
Yeah, there's no-
technology
no,
there.
that's
Yeah,
right. But PUD would be a perfect location.
PUD
Yeah,
would be
it's definitely
great.
something I can get an answer on.
Okay.
PUD. No, Port was represented on the board until about 4 or 5 years ago.
That's yeah.
I think as one of the largest landowners out there, it's probably appropriate we have one spot.
Yes.
Concerns about having too much influence would be lessened if there's 5. I mean,
Mhm.
we should have some influence. I don't too much as a judgment call, but we need somebody dialed in.
And some with our conversations, it makes sense because oftentimes the industry could provide some of the lift as far as work, if you have somebody, it wouldn't have to be the port. We could say, maybe we try to rotate one position, would be one of the 5 would be industry. And we decide between PGE Global and Port, who takes a term on them.
That's a really good.
Whatever works functionally, but they had a really good system that didn't comply with our meeting law, but they would talk to each other when a ditch needed cleaned, whatever, and get it done. And if they're doing that, it's not legal, so we should make it legal because we have great people on that commission.
I like the idea of a letter. My only thought on that is maybe it comes from Sean. If we're truly offering solutions and trying to
And not one
help.
restaurant.
I don't know that a letter from an attorney, oh, no offense, Bob, is maybe the friendliest way to go about that. Yeah. It's just my thought. I don't know how others.
No,
feel
I
about
think
that.
that's really good because we are literally trying to help. We're not trying to strong arm.
Do you know anybody that lives in Alaska that could attend that?
Mike,
Okay, okay, so, okay.
and I will say that they have 3 great members who do great work.
Yeah.
But we need to address this issue. I mean, if any of these projects develop, further projects, whatever.
Are other industry representatives feeling the same way about expanding the board? Would we want to see if there's support from global?
That's our great idea. I'm not sure how they feel about it.
Yeah.
Would be something we would try to work out with them, I would think, but.
If they made a decision across PGE, that would become real apparent quickly, so. Global owns a small. I think Global is very small, actual.
Their tank farm,
Yeah.
that's their interest. It's the 1 vote per acre. That's what, how many acres is their tank farm? 3, 4 acres?
And I think we have 1,800 of
5,800 total acres.
anyway.
So we're all in agreement, a letter?
Back on the front burner, I think from Sean would be fairly appropriate.
Can do.
And I'm willing to, if we need to meet or brainstorm or something, I'm happy to do it. Thank you.
Thanks, Robert.
Just want to say thank you to staff and I don't have a ton to report and I in agreeance on I love this executive director report. It keeps everybody in tune because we're not in here all the time and. Yeah.
And I was astonished at the length of that contract. I think it went to over 120 pages or something like that. The first resolution, I think was, anyway, that was impressive. And I can tell you, I didn't read it all. But other than that, thank you very much for.
I read it.
Sorry. Thank you.
I will say that I really enjoyed working the community events this summer. Like Sean was mentioning, the questions that we get are so informative. And what I like about it is most people aren't coming up to talk to us with an axe to grind. They're coming up to talk to us because they don't know what it is we do. Like we were asked if we were the ones involved in the waterfront project in St. Helens. You know, the amount of confusion about what we do and where we do it is, I don't know, it's going to be an ongoing problem like forever. But the more we can do to, in a very cordial, community-minded way, to get our message out there and to get ourselves in front of the people in this community seems to me to be a real priority. The other thing that I'm very interested in us doing is having more of a presence in Salem. I'm so glad that you're down, serving as the president for OPPA.
Not yet.
Well, but soon you will be. And that is going to be so important to us coming down the road with this amount of money that we need for the seismic project in Port Westward. we're gonna need all the help we can get. And knowing how Salem works and knowing that when that session opens in February, everything will have already been decided in many, many cases. They'll already know what bills they're going to be having in front of them. They're going to know the people that are involved. And if we don't have a presence, and by that I mean a face-to-face presence, or at least getting our name out in front of them, we're really going to be behind the eight ball. And I hope that I hope that you can really hit the ground running in February. I hope that you will have already made connections and already have the name of the Port of Columbia County visible to people, because the competition is going to be huge. And we really need all the help we can get when it comes to these projects. So looking forward to seeing how that goes for you.
Our friend and friendly competitor, Paula, Newport got they shouldn't say they got them. On track to get $9 million.
Wow.
So
Wow.
good for her, good for them, and hopefully good for us as our project is good. So if we continue along and phase it, do it right, I think we should be in the running. So for future grants.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. That's it for me. Yeah.
I just have two items. I wanted to thank those who are here that attended the Picnic in the Park event for Hope and Turning Point. It's an excellent event. We raised $85,000. Nice evening. Yeah, so just wanted to thank you and our sponsors. Next was a sponsor, Global, some other entities as well. But the thing I want to talk about a little bit more is Sean and Gina and I have been chatting a little bit about Scaffreys Bay Marina and outreach to the public about what's going on out there. And we feel it's likely appropriate to put together a 2-commissioner committee to see how we want to move forward with doing that outreach. So I was curious, thoughts on that, who might be interested, and just how we might want to move that forward.
I'd love to be a part of it, but also, weren't you working, the two of you, on something with outreach? Or was that some other project?
It's not ringing back for me off the top of my head, but
I think
Okay,
Commissioner Buell might have expressed interest when we talked about it at the last meeting, but
would you like to be involved? And you're gonna be involved, right?
I would like to be
Sure.
either maybe Nick or myself as kind of users of the marina, and I think
Well, you're the head of the, yeah.
I'm not gonna
that's
turn it down,
appropriate,
put it that
yeah.
way, but if Nick had strong feelings.
Okay, one way or another, I think it'd be well represented either way, so.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you want to, you go right ahead. Yeah,
We'll figure it out.
okay.
Okay, to be determined. I don't have anything else to add, so I think we do have some executive session topics.
That's correct.
Yep.
Like me to read the speech.
Yes, please. And then we'll take a couple-minute break to get it all set up.
The Port of Columbia County will now meet in executive session pursuant to ORS 192-660 subsection 2F. Consider exempt public records, including written legal advice from Port General Counsel. Representatives of the news media and designated staff are allowed to attend. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on any discussions or deliberations that occur during this or any executive session. Port Commission will return to open session after the executive session, and we do not expect any decisions to be announced at that time. Any persons excluded from executive session are welcome to return to open session when it is reserved. Thank you.